way back in 1994, while id Software was doing all that Doom stuff, they weren't interested in making a sequel to that old, outdated Wolfenstein 3D. Spirit Destiny doesn't really count. I mean, that game could have been made in a month if we're being honest. Okay, fine, 4 months. Anyway, they weren't interested, and in early 1994 it was announced that Apogee would be working on a proper sequel. Wolfenstein 3D 2, Rise of the Triad. Apogee had published games on an enhanced version of the old Wolf 3D engine before. What the fuck is a Blake Stone? Nah, they were gonna make something in-house, something big, using an engine that had been pantsed in front of the class by Doom like a month earlier. Hey, you guys remember how Tom Hall, left id Software over major creative differences?
That's right, Sean. Get rid of them. All of them. Then you will be free to realize your dreams of revolutionizing 3D graphics, or rocketeering, or virtual reality, or even artificial intelligence.
Tom Hall went over to Apogee to become lead designer of Wolfenstein 2, Rise of the Triad, but Apogee didn't have the rights to make a sequel to Wolfenstein. I don't think anybody did until 2001. Thus was formed the developers of incredible power, the Dips, who forged Rise of the Triad, and nothing else. Prey was supposed to be their second game, but that's another entire video's worth of story by itself. Here's your problem. Not only did Rise of the Triad come out after Doom, it came out after Doom 2. In fact, this week is the 25th anniversary. 2 days after Rot 1.0 was released, Heretic was released, you know, that Raven Software game on the Doom engine. Here's the thing about Rise of the Triad, though. You might say its engine was outdated in the sense that it could only render 90-degree walls. That's absolutely true. However, excluding that one limitation, Rot, maybe in a move to compensate for its, outdated technology, had about 10,000 other features, including a bunch of stuff that Doom didn't even have. For one thing, unlike Wolfenstein, floors and ceilings could be textured, and the ceiling could be a sky, dynamic lighting like in software mode in DOS, moving walls, a thing you wouldn't see in the Doom engine until Hexen, 3D elements, like you could jump over things, walk on platforms that were actually above other things, multiplayer that supported 11 players? If you guys don't remember, Doom supported 4 at the time. This is cult classic territory, kids. A weird labor of love and passion that is probably not as good as Doom, but it's got character. It's this absolute freak of a game, half stuck between 2D and 3D, and most of the game is pretty fucking fun. First things first, we gotta get to the most important thing. The music in this game is probably the best I've ever heard from the era. Have you guys ever listened to it? You have if you've watched this channel. So this level requires you to get 5 keycards to open a door to get to clone storage so you can destroy the final Ripley clone. Asshole and... Oh! Yeah, a majority of the episodes of this show use Rise of the Triad music. It almost happened by accident, like, I was making this dumb show, I was doing the very first episode, and I was like, I need credits music, and you know when you're making a dumb show about bad video games and cock and ball torture, you need something snappy at the end, with a nice wind-up. And I had Winamp open, and I have this MP3 collection of Rise of the Triad music that's so old I can't even hope to source it. There was never an official release of the Rot soundtrack to my knowledge. Anyway, I got this thing loaded up in alphabetical order, and 2 tracks that are forever connected in my head is coming one after the other. Here Boy and How'd I Do. The music in this game was composed by Lee Jackson and Bobby Prince, and not to shit on Bobby Prince, but the far and away best tracks are all Lee Jackson's. From the info I can gather about it, Bobby Prince made 5 of these tracks, with Lee Jackson making the other 29. Yes, 29, and they are just the best. Now imagine for a minute you're a young kid in the 90s like Civvie was, and you got the shareware version of Rise of the Triad called The Hunt Begins, which is the shareware but also a completely unique level set that doesn't appear in the registered version. Not important, not even the point. Imagine booting this thing up and the first track you hear is... is a little tune by the name of Going Down the Fast Way. And the registered version opens up with a track called Suck This. Not quite as well remembered, to the point where the trailer for the remake used Fastway, as done by, let me see here, Joan Jett and the I'm kidding, it's Andrew Hulshall. There are at least a dozen absolutely banging tracks on the Rot soundtrack. Going down the fast way, Suck This, Ow, Spray, Run Like Smeg, Havana Smooth. If you don't ever play this game, get yourself some of this music. It is some of the greatest video game music ever produced, like top 5. Like, this shit is Symphony of the Night good. This shit is Mega Man X good. Rise of the Triad doesn't have a good source port. It should. The source code was released in 2002. Rise of the Triad just isn't exactly the most popular game, and there are like 5 source ports, and they're all kind of shit. The least shitty one is the one I used from Icarus. It tends to crash a lot. However, it keeps the visual feel of the game. Software rendering in DOS was a tricky thing. It's why Blood GDX doesn't quite look like Blood, or when you leave the default options on in GZ Doom and it ruins the brightness and contrast of the original game and turns on bilinear filtering. Why would you do that? Why would you? Anyway, this port keeps the nice, crispy, contrasty lighting stuff, and to get into a weird quirk of this game kinda early, it has secret walls just like in Wolfenstein 3D. They're actually a little darker than the normal walls so you can tell them apart. It's even tied to the difficulty levels. On easy, they're much darker. On the hardest skill, they're a little bit darker. Now, the port that most people might use is WinRot GL, which I don't like to poop on the work of independent creators who do things for free, but look at it.
Look! Look! What the fuck is this?
Aside from washing out the normal contrast and lighting, this is running in 1080p in a 16:9 aspect ratio, but since ROT was made to run in 4:3 in the then standard 320x200, WinRot GL doesn't expand the field of view to compensate. No, it just stretches everything.
Fucking roll!
Don't even get me started on how the weapons feel weird, especially the firebomb. So I ended up using this Icarus port, which seems to preserve the look and behavior of Rise of the Triad with the added benefit of running in a higher resolution of 800 by 600, but also it doesn't play the cutscenes properly, so I had to record most of those with WinRot GL. And that's it. It's worth it. I think it captures the feel of the game without being too crispy. A mad cult leader named El Oscuro, played by Tom Hall himself, is making trouble on an island off the coast of California, and a high-risk United Nations task force, the Hunt, is sent to investigate. While scouting, their boat is destroyed and they have to fight their way through and stop the cult alone. Tom Hall was cribbing from the Doom Bible a little bit, and so Rise of the Triad has 5 playable characters, all with slightly different attributes. Each character has different hit points, different speeds, different accuracy with bullet weapons. Tarat no Kasat, leader of the Hunt, has average stats. In the credits it says he looks like Richard Mulligan, which is a boomer-ass reference I had to look up. Lorelei Nee is faster, has fewer hit points but better accuracy with bullet weapons. Doug Wendt is the tank, having the highest HP but being the slowest character. So slow that there's a secret in the first level that he'll be killed by because he's not fast enough. The characters are even different heights. Rounding out the cast is Ty Barrett and Ian Paul Freely. Yes, that is his name. They're all voiced too, not that they say much aside from Still, a lot of diverse play styles. God, I haven't even started playing yet. Let's kick this off properly by selecting a skill which, okay, there are 3 sets of skills in the game that all mean the same thing. When you hit that new game button, you're going to be greeted with a lot of colorful names for skill levels. The enemy will devour me. Which part is the trigger? I have pet names for my grenades.
No one shall live.
Or, I am a chew toy. Will of iron, knees of jello. I'm in my element, lead, and
2 words, Reaper Man.
we're still pro in this, even if I will never, ever, ever find all the secret walls in this game. That's not happening, there's too many. So hardest skill it is. I've done this before, it's gonna go fine. So this game is fucking bonkers, even by 1990s standards. This ain't your older brother's Wolfenstein game. Yeah, you got your block walls, but that's height. Is that lightning? And what's that over there, a pistol? But I already have a pistol, what can I... Oh. Let me tell you, before I played Max Payne or saw a John Woo movie, Rise of the Triad was my first experience to running around and capping motherfuckers with 2 pistols, and it was just wonderful. You'll probably also get an MP40 in the first level, which makes the dual pistols obsolete. And you have infinite bullets, why not? You'll need them. Especially on the harder skills. The low-level enemies take 4 hits on easier skills and 7 on the hardest. It's less noticeable when you have the MP40 because it just sprays. Not the strongest gun sound in the world, you feel like you're lightly peppering the guards with bullets. The game not only auto-aims, but it'll shift your vertical view to do so. There are controls for looking up and down, but you use those for flying later. You'll have a rocket launcher before you're out of the first room if you step on this touch plate. But that's not the only rocket launcher you'll get. In the second room, you can ride these here GADs, gravitational anomaly discs, which are, like this is the Wolfenstein engine, it has something approaching actual 3D gameplay. And not just because it and Apogee were sharing stuff, because Earth Stranded Nihil and John Carmack was like, hey kids, you want some scaling routines? Second room, heat seeker missile. It'll lock onto fire and torches and stuff too, be careful. And those torches, like most of the props in this game, are destructible. The enemies are all digitized actors, mostly played by Apogee staff. You'll see low guards who carry pistols and sometimes lie on the ground pretending to be dead. You'll see high guards. If you're lucky, they'll drop their MP40 for you. And also lightning guards. If you're playing on the higher difficulties, get ready for a surprise from them. There's a chance they're carrying a bazooka that looks identical to a pistol, and you might not know it until they've already killed you. They can also steal the explosive weapon you're carrying and use it against you, a thing that actually never happens to me anymore because they're priority targets. Any one of them could waste you in a second. This is just the first episode out of 4. These are the easy enemies. They'll also drop those missile weapons, giving you a few extra shots, which is convenient if you need to heat up your pre-sporage. Yeah, even the health pickups have some strange quirk to them. Monk Meal will give you like 10% health, Priest Porridge will give you around 20%, but if you shoot a missile at it, the Priest Porridge gets heated up and it'll give you about 50%. That's this whole game. It has all these things you'd see in other FPS games of the time, they're just spun in some weird way because they could. There are a bunch of life items you can collect. When you get 100, you get an extra life. That's right, a live system, which is exactly as superfluous as the score system, even if I forgot to save and took a death on a couple levels so I could start from the beginning. The worst part of that is usually finding another MP40, because the missile weapons are everywhere. Oh, yeah, and you might not explore these levels thoroughly. Some of them are massive, but explore the first level because you can find a God mode power-up and you think, cool, invincibility, but then you pick it up. Those noises the player's making are reportedly based on the sounds John Romero used to make while playing Doom with God mode on. And let's get this out of the way. Ludicrous jibs. Rise of the Triad might have been the bloodiest FPS game released at the time, with an RSAC rating of 4, the highest that old rating system went. This was before the ESRB, and for reference, while Rot had a rating of 4, Doom 2, Heretic, Hexen, and Quake were all a 3. But Civvie, what about the engine-killing jibs cheat? Oh god, there's even more power-ups. Bulletproof armor, asbestos armor, so itchy, and used to prevent fire and explosive damage, which you're gonna see a lot of, especially later. There's environmental hazards like fire chutes, lava pools, and the worst of all, there's also a couple of power downs, yes, pickups that actively fuck you over, Elasto mode sends you bouncing around the level, and Shrooms mode. Oh. Of course we have to talk about dog mode, because there's God mode, why not have dog mode? Why not devote precious development time to this weird Dog mode turns you into an invincible dog. You maul enemies, walk under these walls here to access secret areas. You have a super special attack when you hold down the fire button, and its little paw comes up to activate doors and switches. Oh, it's wonderful. There are 4 episodes in Rise of the Triad, the first taking place as you approach the monastery on the island, the second inside of it, the third in the caves below, and episode 4, which is, I don't know, it's called The Slow and the Dead. Each one of these episodes has 6 levels, plus a boss level and 1 secret level, except episode 4, which has a couple of extra regular levels, which we'll get to. The third level, Burned and Amazed, has the first secret exit, behind all these traps that you should use the flight power-up, yes, a flight power-up, to sail right over. The secret levels aren't usually gimmicky or really all that different from the regular ones, just usually harder and more complex in their layout, which says something because it took me years to not get lost in Rise of the Triad, even with the surprisingly detailed map that shows textures on the walls and even item and enemy placement. You'll also meet the Triad Over Patrol who shoots nets at you. When they hit, you'll have to wiggle left and right to get out unless you pick up a knife from a statue. Then you can cut it, but you don't use a knife as a weapon, it's just there to cut nets. A few other weapons you'll find in the first episode, the split missile, which is It's not bad. It fires 2 missiles that break apart and home in. It has its uses in open areas, but it might be the least interesting of the missile weapons. All the missile weapons take up slot 4 on the keyboard, and when you pick one up, you drop the one you're carrying. My god, it's just like modern FPS games. 0 out of 10. Garbage! Also the drunk missile, which is fun, and I like. It does this. The flame wall, which according to documentation was a thing that was a bug that they made into a weapon. The fire rides along the floor until it hits something, and when it hits something that isn't a boss... Beautiful. My favorite, the firebomb, is just a big explosion that shakes the screen. It's also wonderful. The first boss you'll meet is General Darien, who has little switches in his room that'll drop these spikes on you, and if you shoot them at the wrong time, they'll crash this port. Bosses in Rise of the Triad are a little more involved than you'd expect from the genre at the time it came out. Darien likes to teleport around and you can cover the places he pops up with moving pillars, trapping him between a couple of places and hitting him with rockets. And he talks!
Your host. They'll bury you in a lunchbox.
And he is really tall. Nuke him and it's on to the next part of the game. Look at this, a 1-level map. Kinda looks like something you'd see in Wolfenstein, right? Each episode introduces new enemies, and in episode 2 you'll meet the strike team, who try to roll and strafe away from your gunfire, but more importantly, the Triad enforcers. Oh, these bastards. Most of the human enemies in Rot can be stun-locked with the bullet weapons. Not this guy. Oh no. And he's got an even more powerful machine gun and grenades that don't obey the laws of gravity. And they'll take 2 or 3 missiles to bring down. They're one of the toughest, possibly the toughest common enemies in the game, and sometimes you won't have missile weapons and you'll be stuck using the MP40. Oof. Under the right circumstances, you can get them to kill themselves with their own splash damage. Episode 2 has what I consider to be the first bad level of Rise of the Triad, Rocky Plateau. Rocky Plateau is a big, ugly, nasty key hunt, and I don't care for it. It's hard to navigate, there's a lot of fights with enforcers in enclosed areas. I try to get through as quickly as possible. However, to do that, you have to find the secret exit, which is behind a moving wall that's triggered by a completely arbitrarily placed touch plate all the way over here. This was a Tom Hall map. Man, I wish I had footage of Gordon Ramsay yelling at Tom Hall. That would just be amazing.
Come on, you can do better than that.
I just
You
thought...
thought? F off and think again, will you?
Yes, yeah, chef.
It's a Christmas miracle. That secret exit takes you to...
Eat lead.
As you get farther into Rot, you're gonna notice more traps. Walls that shoot fireballs, which are 1 or 2 hit kills on you without asbestos armor, and the thing you'll have to pay attention to as a player is these walls here. Walls with lights on them that read 1, 2, 3, or 4, or maybe more, mixed and matched sometimes. So you're running around, you're on a switch hunt for this whole map, going through elevators, and the elevators in this game are lies! Lies! They're more like teleporters. You go in, you hit a switch, wait 5 seconds, or sometimes the game plays elevator music. Good job, Lee Jackson. And the door opens to let you out, but it's not like you're going to another floor, because there aren't other floors. See, you can hit a wall with bullets, and you can see the bullet decals disappear when the elevator stops. Anyway, yeah, this isn't my favorite level either. Oh god, I forgot about... Katie, get the Tommy Wiseau out of the way now. The room is an infamous level. No enemies really, just traps. Here's a tip, move this pillar right here. Do it, trust me, you'll want to. It's kinda like puzzles, finding touch plates and such, and you might wonder if there aren't any enemies, why are there missile weapons lying around? Well, there are a couple of gun turrets in one part, which is a secret, but I'm gonna show you anyway because it'd be YouTuber malpractice if I didn't. You gotta be careful though, because if you walk into a sky tile in Rise of the Triad, you die. Check your map and you'll see a path right here. Follow it, destroy the gun turrets, and you'll find Scott's mystical head. That's Scott Miller, and his head gives you 2,764,331 points. Not a random number because that was Apogee's phone support line at the time. I wonder what it does now.
The number you have reached is not in service. This is a recording.
Ard Wolf. There are other collectible items in the game, 3 developer balls, D, I, and P, for developers of incredible power. The D ball... Sorry, I know there's a couple 12-year-olds watching, I paused for their laughter. The D ball is in the level the 4-way chamber. None of these are easy to find. In this map you have to step on a touch plate in the path of a fireball chute, fight 8 bazillion guards, move a column, find another secret wall to get the OSCURO key, which is used almost exclusively to open secret areas, and then finally open this one room with the developer ball in it. You have infinite bullets, never stop shooting. Then it's on to Sebastian Doyle Christ. Any other smegheads catch the reference? He's the most straightforward boss in the game. He sits in a chair and shoots missiles. Shoot at him till he dies. Robotrix. I bet you weren't expecting robots. Gross little tin cans that shoot missiles at you and you can only destroy them with explosives. This first level of episode 3 is full of those and enforcers. Banging music though. I can't go over every level in Rise of the Triad, just the ones that are interesting or difficult. So, dead in 5 seconds. The title comes from the idea that if you stand still, this wall of fiery death will kill you in 5 seconds, which it will. If you thought those tiny robots were fun, get a load of the Ballisticraft. They shoot more missiles at you, and you can't kill them. The second developer ball is in this level too. There's a giant maze that is basically sectioned off from the rest of the level, full of robots and Ballisticraft. There's a secret area near one of these Ballisticraft's routes that is just fire jets and turrets. There's a secret close by with an asbestos armor that'll help you with the Ballisticraft and the fire, but you're on your own for the turrets. There, 2 out of 3 down. Now I have to go through the rest of the level. Hold on, I'm trying to get one of the end level bonuses here. If you leave a level with 1 bar of health, you get the skin of your teeth bonus, and it gives you back 100 health for the next level. Oh yeah, and when you're below 3 bars of health, the game makes this awful sound. What's that noise? Is there a fire?
Yeah, the show's going down in flames. Let's get out of here. Ho, 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 ho.
What the fuck was in that eggnog loaf?
This is a boomer-ass reference, Civvie.
Shut up! The Angry Quilt. What a name for a level. I understand the layout resembles a quilt of rooms. Oh, and the ending of this level is, Save yourself some frustration with these spinning blades. Here's a secret push wall to get past them. You're not fast enough. Man, I haven't seen a robot in a while. Never mind. This next map has another secret exit that isn't exactly well hidden. There's a touch plate before you exit the level that moves a wall that reveals a touch plate that opens a wall that reveals, all these pits that I can't avoid, followed by a goddamn platoon of Triad enforcers. Stop, breathe, find the secret right at the entrance of this secret to get the God mode, and... Then it takes you to 8 Ways to Hell, another one of the more complex and difficult secret levels. It's not as hard as the title would suggest, and even if you think this is hard, it's time to talk about... NME stands for Nasty Metal Enforcer. It was probably the hardest boss in an FPS game at the time. You ain't gonna circle strafe your way out of this one. Just look at him. Just look at his bullshit. There's rooms on each side of this massive arena that have health, which you will desperately need, and ammo, which you'll only need slightly less than health. Each of these rooms has 2 patrolling ballista craft in them, by the way. The enemy is faster than you. It is stronger. It is eternal. It will tear you to shreds. I'll usually try to get it trapped in one of these rooms because it doesn't seem to know how to open doors. You need to move quick, stay behind cover. Even that might not help because it fires fucking drunk heat seekers at you. Once its health is low enough, it starts shooting all the fireballs ever cataloged during the course of human history, but eventually it dies. Eventually. The enemy is bullshit. Welcome to episode 4. You might not stay long because this is where the game can turn into a slog. See, you get some new enemies, Death Monks and Death Fire Monks, and I think you'll understand why this might kill the game for a while. Maybe on lower skills you have the explosives to deal with all these monks quickly, but not here. No, because it takes anywhere between 25 and 30 bullets to kill just one of them. Thankfully, bullet weapons still stun lock them, but this whole process slows the game to a crawl. They're about as tough as the Enforcers, but there are so many more of them, especially in the secret level, which you get to from the level Diamonds and Rust, but only if you guess that this switch here will open an unmarked wall and you remember to take the flight power up over there. I died in the secret level and thought, why don't I just pistol start it? What could go wrong? Fun fact, the Death Monk is Lee Jackson, so he's the best and worst parts of this game. I took to using environmental hazards against him. You do have a couple of new weapons that help. The Dark Staff is especially useful because the projectile travels right through him and jibs everything in its path. The Excalibad is less useful. It's a melee attack that knocks enemies in the air, and if you hold down the fire button, it does a secondary attack that shoots a line of explosive baseballs that's likely to kill you even in a medium-sized space. I never found it very practical. Did I mention that if you fall on top of an enemy, you can kill him? And vice versa? So this is basically episode 4. Really monotonous shooting in a game where the shooting already bordered on monotonous, along with diabolical environment traps. There are some bright spots, like Circles of Fire, which really only has one big tough fight in it. And unless you run through here before it closes, you won't be able to get to the other walls it opens earlier in the level using that touch plate that blocks off the earlier parts of the level for no good reason. Got it? Good. This is where things get weird. You think you go into this map, the lair of El Oscuro, and you just shoot him a lot and he dies. Ha! No. Because when you shoot him, he retaliates with a similar attack. Flame wall him, he flame walls you. Shoot a homing missile, he shoots one back. Hit him with the Dark Staff, he shoots the same projectile back at you. The way to win, get this, is to not shoot him until he tires himself out and turns into a snake monster made of giant versions of his own head. Then you exit that level, you know, the final boss level, and chase the snakeheads through a canyon before getting to the very last level we promise, in the Dark Nest. Why is it called that? Because El Oscuro lays eggs. He lays eggs. El Oscuro lays eggs. Apparently he reproduces asexually. I know that these nerds weren't doing drugs, and you could theoretically go into the main area and kill snake faces here. It's not that hard once you get some asbestos armor, you get him over these lava pits and fire away. He's not even that tough. But if you didn't destroy all his eggs, like not a single goddamn person who played this game the first time did, you get a bad ending and it chucks you back to the start of the level. And in order to do this effectively, you have to hit some touch plates to open a wall to reveal a door, and then you have to learn how to rocket jump. Yes, maybe more than a full year before Quake would popularize rocket jumping, you had to know these steps. 1. Asbestos armor. 2. Firebomb. 3. Over the wall. Into the other part of the nest where the rest of his offspring and a not insignificant number of Deathfire monks are. Once you're done, you go back out, kill him again, and the world is saved. The hunt swims 20 miles back to shore. This game didn't sell well enough, so Apogee went on to become 3D Realms, and the developers of Incredible Power were disbanded. Rise of the Triad, for the most part, is a fun little game with a shocking amount to talk about, including stuff I probably completely glossed over, like Chris holding the dopefish in the credits. Merry Christmas, kids! I hope Santa brings you a firebomb. But wait, Civvie, what about the warp-only levels? That's right, we got 3 more levels to get through because this game only took me like 10 hours to beat. Yeah, you can play through Doom in an afternoon, but Rise of the Triad, nah, that's a time sink. So here's dead in 2 seconds. I actually made it in 5 frames under 2 seconds, so I'm gonna call that a pro gamer move. Now you need to walk backwards as soon as the level starts to get dog mode, and then keep dog mode because all the walls damage you, and you gotta find secret walls, a key, a switch, I don't know. I had to cheat to get here, so I'm a little disappointed that I don't have to cheat to finish it. The last room has fire jets and a bunch of 3 extra life power-ups, which you won't actually need. However, when you exit this map, it takes you to the creme de la creme, the incomparable, the Vomitorium. Oh yeah, give me that sweet. Now to get to the end of this map, you have to jump on this one single gat and ride it to this part of the map here. Cool. Time to cheat. And then it crashed to the desktop, so I had to warp to the final map. Classic. Maybe another time we'll play the reboot. And maybe even another time we'll do... I would really rather not. Happy holidays, kids!